and welcome back to Mother Tongue, your eyes, ears, and finger on the pulse for all parents around the world. Let's get going, shall we?
We are so incredibly excited to welcome Ruth Watts to Mother Tongue. Ruth, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Excited to be here. How are you doing?
Too. I'm good. I've just also realised I keep saying we are so incredibly excited to welcome, like I've got a posse of people with me. It's obviously just me. I don't know what it is about. I feel like it's a British thing. I don't want to be like, here I am, the star of my show. So it's always a we.
Community. You've got a community though.
No, I guess the community we are so excited to welcome you. So welcome.
So thanks everyone.
Ruth, tell us about yourself.
So I am a health visitor. I've been a health visitor now for 10 years. Prior to that, I still am, but I was a mental health nurse and I worked on intensive care unit as a mental health nurse.
Wow.
I've been with my husband for nearly 15 years, married for nearly 10. Yeah, I know. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. And then we've got two beautiful little girls who are 5 and 7 years old. I think once you're a mum, it just takes over your life, doesn't it? But I enjoy keeping fit, and another little sprinkle of information, I'm a vegan, so there you go.
Love this. So much to unpack there. Well, do you know what? I stumbled across you. This is why sometimes I love the Instagram algorithm. Sometimes I hate it because I feel like it does me no favors ever, but that's fine. That's a story for another day. But one day, there I am on my For You page and I stumbled across you and I was like, oh my God, I love her content. I was like, oh my God, I have to speak from the podcast because I love what you're doing at the moment, and I love all the debunking you do and everything else. So can you just tell me a little bit more about, one, how you got into the profession that you're in, and two, what made you decide, let's start an Instagram page?
I know. So I was a health visitor before I had my babies, and I was working on the mental health ward at the time, and a night shift nurse came in and she said, oh, I'm actually doing my health visiting training. And I said, oh, what's that? I've always been incredibly passionate about supporting people with mental health, but I've got this more burning desire to support postnatal women in pregnancy, and this was even prior to having babies. And she told me what it was and I thought, that's what I want to do. So I just applied and I got on, and then you go to university and do another year of training to become a health visitor. And then it was about a year ago, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna touch the online world. There's no health visitors really out there. There is another really incredible one called Lindsay Hookway, but she's gone more down the sleep specialist route. But other than her, there's not really anyone out there doing what I'm doing. And I think I've always kind of in COVID enjoyed talking on my private stories, and people kept saying to me, I think you should go public. And I thought, I don't know, I can't do that. But then both of my children were at school and I just thought, I'm going to give it a go. And I started uploading health promotion information. It just took off. Yeah. It just took off crazily. And I think what I enjoy is the mum to mum approach. So I'm more conversational. I'm not your typical, what I think people think health visitors are, because we are quite black and white. We are a bit Marmite. Some people love them, some people hate them, depending on your experience. But I'm quite non-judgmental and go with the flow, trust your gut instinct, a bit more Mother Earthy, I suppose, when it comes to it.
Okay, I'm going to ask a really stupid question here, and excuse my ignorance, because I've been out of the UK for a very, very long time, and we don't have health visitors in Dubai. It's not a thing in the GCC at all, which I think is quite sad. But when you say health visitor, I'm nodding like I know what your job description is, but I actually don't have a clue. So do you go to people's houses when they've had babies? Is it like midwife but not?
So you have to be a nurse or a midwife to train to be a health visitor. Then you go on to university to do an extra year of training. We're specialist community public health nurses. So anything to do with public health, that's our job. But we deal with families until their youngest child is 5 years old. So so we've got 5 main core contacts. We meet you antenatally, so we get to know you, we see what support you may need, because as you know, it can be the most difficult time of your life having a baby. Then we come and see you again about 10 to 14 days, where we do take over from the midwife. Again, it's 6 to 8 weeks where mental health is likely to peak, or maybe needs support with mental health. And then we come again at 1 and 2, and that's to check on development. Now, if your child is developing fine, you're doing really well, we don't typically see people beyond 2 years old. But if we need to see you because of nursery having concerns or developmental concerns and getting that child school ready, then we may see you again, or if there's additional needs. But ultimately, we support families with health promotion to try to get give that baby, that child, the best opportunity in life. So that can involve cycle breaking, that can involve supporting with domestic abuse, mental health, and then all the way down to sleep support, behaviour support, toilet training, support with fussy eating, anything to do with health, really.
That is absolutely phenomenal. I feel like we could definitely benefit from this because I
It
think,
is. It
but
is,
I feel like a
but
butt's coming.
it's incredibly understaffed and underfunded. So the experience you'll hear from a lot of mums is, I don't see my health visitor. I haven't seen my health visitor for years. I've not heard from them because, like the NHS, it's drowning. So it is incredible, yes, if you're in an area where you receive the level of care that you're meant to be receiving. It's hard. It's hard.
I bet it's hard. I mean, I feel like there's a lot that's hard in the UK at the moment. And actually, I was listening to something this morning, and this is a massive curveball, but you never know, it might help mums down the line. There was a headline over the weekend, I think it was, about how Ozempic is going to basically save the world millions because, for example, it's going to free up like 10% of the NHS because that at the moment is how many people are going for issues relating to obesity. And I mean, if something like that can make such an impact on the NHS, and actually these people can then use the resource and the money to help other people in other ways where they actually, there isn't a quick fix. I mean, that would be quite amazing. There was also something about plane fuel and how much plane fuel planes will stop using. God, I didn't say that in the right way at all. How much planes will save on fuel from having less heavy people on the plane.
Don't.
That is mind-blowing. I mean,
Really?
that is wild. And just the environmental impact on that alone. Like,
see, I don't know much about Ozempic other than I thought there were wild side effects. So it might save on the NHS costs with obesity, but you wonder coming in with other things.
Yeah, this is true. I just think it's such an unknown area, but as it's evolving, I find this stuff so fascinating. But anyway, we digress. I wanted to come back onto mental health because mental health is such a big one, and obviously you have a big background in that, which I didn't really understand. And I think mental health is something that I'm currently taking very, very seriously because I have massively struggled with it this time round. And I think that there's still so much shame around mental health postpartum. And I also think that mental health postpartum isn't black and white.
No.
The more I speak about it, and I'm quite open about these kind of things, mostly because I'm like very answer driven and I have to find a solution for every problem.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like knowledge is power. So I talk to everyone about it in the hope that they're going to give me a magic answer. But I want to talk, like you mentioned that it sometimes peaks around like 8 weeks. Why does it peak around 8 weeks, and why do we suffer with mental health? I mean, sleep deprivation aside, like what is happening in our bodies that mean that mental health is something that normally gets really battered?
No, the thing is, I often say to people, physical health and mental health, you would never expect to go your entire life without any physical health problems, whether that's a cold, whether that's to being admitted to hospital because you've broken a leg. Because you can physically see those things, they hold more weight. Whereas your mental health, it's impossible to go your whole life without experiencing mental health problems, whether that is a sprinkle of anxiety, and I don't need to underplay that because you can have really, really bad anxiety, but feeling anxious, feeling really nervous, but it's not actually impacting your day-to-day life, all the way up to really serious mental illness. You can't see those things. So I think people, there's stigma around it because if you've never understood or experienced mental health problems yourself, it's really hard to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. But what tends to happen around 6 to 8 weeks is we find there's this huge flurry of excitement from guests, from family with this newborn baby, and it gets to 6 to 8 weeks and it's a bit like, oh, that was really cute holding that baby. Anyway, back to normal life now.
Yeah.
And I think mums tend to get dropped a little bit. We're designed to be in a village, which we're just not anymore in the slightest. And we're not designed to be a 1 or 2 parent household, carrying all the chores, working, raising children. So I think it's just a lot of pressure. And we can see a huge decline in mental health around that time when suddenly it's like, oh my God, this is that newborn bubble has faded or burst because this is the real life. You're exhausted, like you said, stretched very thin, and you know, all of those things, they can take a toll on your mental health, let alone whether you've got a history, let alone regarding your situation. Do you have support? What's your relationship like? What's your financial situation? There's just so much that can impact your mental health.
Yeah, it's so true. And do you know what? I think until I had children, I was like, oh, I'm so mentally stable. Like, I'm
Yeah.
such a mentally stable human. And I had my first child, and I remember, I think he must have been about 4 months old. And I was like, it was like Ross from Friends. I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I was not fine, but I held it together so well. And then I started getting intrusive thoughts. And I remember the first time I had an intrusive thought, I was like, holy shit, someone is going to have to put me into a mental asylum because I've lost my fucking mind. And it wasn't until I spoke to someone about it that I was like, oh, this is quite normal. But
Intrusive thoughts are scary. They
so
are.
so
And
scary.
I watched a video. Somebody the other day did an analogy, and I can't remember what she was called, but she likened it to Final Destination. You know, when they'd get that kind of premonition of something that can happen. And I think that's what mums do. They see all of the worst case scenarios, and we visually see them to protect our child from what if they fall in that river and drown, you know, and that you're not even anywhere near a river. And it's just another layer of the mental load of keeping that baby safe, because suddenly the most precious thing in the entire world is outside your body and something could happen, which is terrifying.
Horrible. And I mean, mine would range like this time round. This has been my biggest thing. I think I went from doing very little to then throwing myself straight back into work, which again, you know, if you need to financially, but also I do think as mums, you're like, I must get back to being myself. I must feel like me again. So there's like this push pull. And I mean, mine would go from my baby's going to die overnight through to maybe I'm a lesbian, and I'd be like, wow, that's wide ranging. And I would
Roller coaster ride.
yeah, and it seeds in your head, and you're like, fuck, I can't unthink that now. And
No.
it's wild that
Is it true?
yeah,
Yeah.
these intrusive thoughts can just they catch you so off guard. You're eating your lunch thinking about snowflakes and ponies, and then you're like, bam, my baby's
Yeah.
gonna die, and it's like,
I
oh,
know.
but
Yeah.
it's just crazy. And I mean, what as a health professional and a health visitor, what would you say that women can do to kind of really try and tackle these intrusive thoughts? Because it's hard.
Yeah, it is. And it can be very overwhelming. And what I would say is, if the intrusive thoughts stop you from doing something from day to day, so say you have these terrifying thoughts that someone's going to crash into and your baby's going to die, and it stops you from using your car, then at that point it is time to talk to somebody. However, like you said, there is a degree of normality to intrusive thoughts. So the best things to do with intrusive thoughts is firstly recognizing that it's there, saying it out loud to somebody if you can. That can really help, because I have the same thoughts, my babies are going to die tonight. I say it to my husband, and it makes me feel better saying it out loud. And I say to him, do you think they're going to die tonight? Honestly, most nights. And he'll say, no, I don't. And I think, oh, okay, saying that out loud feels better. Also, presenting the facts to a court of law. So if you were to present the situation to a court of law, would they vote yes, that is likely to happen, or would they say no, that's not likely to happen? There's no evidence in that in the slightest, and that often helps me. But the thing is, recognizing the thought is there. If you keep trying to ignore the thought, it's going to be like holding a beach ball underwater. It's just going to keep pinging back up. Seeing the thought is there, but then really focusing on what you're doing right now, trying to practice mindfulness, which is a really hard skill. Focusing on, I see that thought is there in my mind, but right now I'm going to focus on how this food tastes. What does it feel like in my hand? What does it feel like in my mouth? And just really bringing it back to basics to try to push that thought to the side.
I love that. I love that. That's a very good, because again, I think something that I actually learned from my therapist recently, because you know, this is another way we're going into self-improvement, is they're just thoughts. They're not actions. They're just thoughts. So let them come, let them pass.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's the thing. You don't want to add so much more into your plate. People are like, oh, maybe try meditation or grounding work, and I'm like, when are we doing all this? Like, this is a new mum. Like, really great if you do have the time, but normally, like, the days are just packed full of whatever it is that you're doing. You know, looking after your family, cooking food, going to the supermarket, everything else.
And that's the thing with mindfulness, you can do it when you're washing up, but if you've got a screaming child at your leg, you can hardly sit there thinking, how does this feel? This is so relaxing, because you can't, you're already feeling triggered and overstimulated. And so, but if you do have a moment where you're in the car, how does it feel sitting here? How does it feel squeezing the steering wheel? How does it feel when you're washing up, if you haven't got a screaming child, you know, hanging on your leg? So it is, you can practice things like mindfulness, even in the shower, 2 minutes. What's that hot water feeling like on my body? Like, what's every single sensation feeling like? It keeps you in the present, and the more you practice it, the more you strengthen that muscle.
Yeah, that's good. I love that, actually. I definitely need to do more of that. I also wanted to talk about overwhelm and overstimulation, because again, these are two things that I really don't think parents talk about. And I think it happens a lot more when you're a second time or a third time mum, when you've got another little being who's like, mummy, 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 prod, prod,
Yeah.
prod, tug, tug.
Yeah.
I want this, give me a smoothie. And I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I get to the end of the day and I'm so like, it's almost like I'm just numb to everything. I'm like, I've got nothing to give you guys.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
hard.
mean,
It's hard.
it is hard. And I know it's
Yeah.
part and parcel of motherhood, and I know everything is a phase, but what tips could you give to mums who are feeling like incredibly touched out?
I think the really tricky thing is back to the village. This is where other people would support, but people aren't in a village anymore. This is where it isn't designed to be all on one person all of the time. Sometimes, and this is one of the hardest things to do. Well, firstly, sometimes putting the telly on, letting them sit there and watch the telly if you need to go upstairs for 5 minutes is absolutely fine. But if they're too young to do that, or you don't want to do that, sometimes just trying to lean into it as best as possible is the best thing you can do. I sometimes find I'm the most overwhelmed and triggered when I'm actually distracted. I'm trying to go on my phone, I'm trying to reply to something, and then they're talking to me and I'm getting frustrated at them. Whereas actually, I think to myself, if I put my phone down and I just come and sit with them, even though I'm feeling tapped out, sometimes that fills their cup up, and then you feel better for it as well. It's when you're being pulled in too many directions, and I think, like you said, when you start to have multiples or you've had twins, you're holding the baby who's crying, and then your other one wants you as well, and it's just like, I'm one person, guys. I don't know what to do here, and you want to scream, but obviously you can't because you're the parent. And it's just sometimes stopping everything else and leaning into it a little bit and just giving over.
That's actually great advice, because you're so right. Most of the time as parents, we do feel tugged when we're trying to do too many things at once, especially
Yeah.
too many things that are totally polar opposites to each other.
Yeah.
Parenting and work, for example.
Yeah.
But I loved that your point then. What was it that you just, sorry, my mind is so blank. What did you just say? And I was like, that is such a good point. Just rewind to me for a second.
What did I
Oh
say?
my God, no, this is really going to annoy me.
About leaning into it or putting the telly on, or
Oh my God, my brain. It's going to come back to me. It will come back to
it
me.
will. It'll come back. It's gone. Gone
Honestly,
but not forgotten.
happy Monday and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Right. So we've obviously talked about a little bit about mental health in new mums. What other concerns are you normally looking out for when you go and see a new mum in those early days?
Bond and attachment, because I think for some people that doesn't come as easily as we're all led to believe. So we look for bond and attachment, and then it's all area dependent again. But in my area, we do have specific mental health nurses who support with maternal mental health with bond and attachment, because bond and attachment is huge, and it's very, very, very important, and that can impact your parenting journey dramatically. And we want, we want mums to be in love with their babies, so that's something else that we do look out for.
I mean, how do you help with bond and attachment? Because again, this is something that personally I've not really ever felt, but I know lots of people do. So how do you overcome that?
Well, that's where we do have specialist mother and infant mental health nurses who have had additional training. But really, it sometimes is about frequent visits and trying to retrain their brain to look out for all the little things, look out for the things that you do like, recognizing that you are having negative thoughts, but you're doing something about it, and spending pure quality time, because that bond and attachment, it can grow, and but sometimes it's about getting to the root of the problem. What's happened in their childhood? Do they need to talk about and sort out other issues that they've had? What's their mental health looking like? It's not necessarily this one issue of suddenly you're not bonded to your baby, and it is quite unusual.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I want to talk about crying, because again, God, baby's crying. It's still third child round. I'm like, my God, make the baby stop crying. Can't cope. I literally can't cope. I have to leave the house. I can't, especially my husband at the moment, he's in that phase where if the baby wakes up early, he's like, just leave the baby. Like, the baby will go back to sleep. And I I cannot, I have to leave the house. I'm like, I'm going for a walk, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing anything but being here. And to be fair, Rocco doesn't really scream anymore. He just kind of shouts. But I find it so difficult to hear a baby cry. Like, it literally goes through me like, ooh. How can we change our relationships with baby, like how bad babies crying makes us feel? Because they cry, let's be honest, they cry. They do cry all the time.
You're hardwired to not enjoy a cry because it's the only way a baby can communicate with you. So when they're crying, that is them communicating a need, even if that need is requiring comfort or hunger, or they're teething and in pain, or they're not feeling well, or they're tired. They can't communicate any other way, but you are hardwired to hate that sound, to try and stop it as soon as possible for you to meet your baby's need. Because if crying didn't bother us and a baby crying was their way of letting us know they needed something, and we were like, well, they're just crying, you could see how things could go horribly wrong there, or a baby's needs could be completely unmet. So you are hardwired to hate that sound, to try and fix it as quickly as possible, to keep them alive.
So control crying, for example, like my husband, he's 5 months now, so we haven't really sleep trained. He's a good little sleeper. But what are your thoughts on control crying, and why is it bad? Because I don't really like control crying. Kind of freaks me out.
So my honest thoughts on controlled crying, or any types of those sleep training methods, is firstly, I wouldn't judge a mother for doing it, because we know how desperate you can be with sleep, and actually sometimes needing them to cry in their crib, the alternative being you're ready to snap and maybe do something that you regret. Actually, there sometimes is a need for that for some parents, like we're talking about being overstimulated and overwhelmed. But on the whole, no, I wouldn't recommend controlled crying. Well, I would never recommend it unless you needed to put your baby down crying in the crib. But I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't judge a parent for doing it. And we only know what we know, okay? We know until you learn more. And if you're at your wit's end and desperate, and you've got family members telling you do this, do this, do this, where else are you supposed to learn and look? But no, I don't recommend controlled crying. Like I said, it's their only way of communicating with us is crying. In the first 2 years of life, their brain goes through this huge developmental patch that it will never go through again. Similar situation does happen in teenage years, but nothing like the first 2 years. So the pathways between their synapses in the brain, they go through this strengthening process and this pruning process. And what we want to do is, the more we respond with love, the more we connect with them, the more security. And babies have different needs. They're born with different dispositions. Some of them are happy to go down in their crib. Amazing, you're meeting their needs. Some of them don't want to be put down for the first year of the entire life. And that's unfortunately what you've been given. And it's just, so they require different things depending on the baby. Neither's right or wrong, but the more you respond to them and their needs individually to that baby, the more you're going to strengthen these positive pathways in the brain, which are going to impact how they form relationships, how they regulate their emotions when they get older. So one of the theories with regards to controlled crying is they're obviously trying to communicate with you by crying, increases the level of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Cortisol isn't the ideal hormone to be flooding the brain with baby brain development. We want security, we want love, we want oxytocin, we want, all those positive serotonin, those positive hormones. So the more you leave a baby to cry, firstly, you're flooding their brain with cortisol, which isn't always, you can't always prevent that. You're driving somewhere and they're crying in the car. I'm not saying stop. It's horrendous, I know.
I
But
hate it.
sometimes they cry, and that's unfortunately how it is. But you're doing it, you're putting them in that situation, and sometimes they just stop crying because they don't think anyone's coming, so that it's not good for bond and attachment, it's not good for emotional regulation, it's not good for all that type of stuff that we don't know for sure, but can go on to impact the way they regulate emotions and form relationships when they get older.
Oh my God, that's so sad. When you said that, they stopped crying because they didn't think anyone's coming.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It comes from the cavemen days. We haven't really evolved too much from the cavemen days. So if a baby is crying and nobody comes, they stop crying because they don't want to be making themselves aware to saber-toothed tigers, to bears, because they could be eaten. A lot of it, when you strip it back, comes back down to the cavemen days. Like with anxiety, a huge part of it is fight or flight. We don't need to be running away or fighting in a situation that we're anxious in, but that we haven't lost that kind of inbuilt reflexy type thing.
Yeah, so true. It's so true. I want to talk about sleep a little bit. So tell me, what is your experience? Obviously, you are a mum of two and a health visitor. What is your own personal experience with sleep, and what advice would you give to a mum who's, let's say 6-8 months in and still really struggling with sleep deprivation?
The trouble with sleep is, so firstly, my experience was my first, she woke hourly until she was 10 months old, and my second did sleep better. So I have created a sleep guide, which isn't suitable for everybody, and it says in that guide, I will never promise you a full night's sleep. We are mammals. We are designed to wake through the night, and the younger the baby, it's actually a safety mechanism for babies to be waking in the night, because it can be dangerous going for too longer periods of sleep, etc., etc. But I used my own sleep guide on both of my babies, and it did work. So what I support parents with, one of the ways, this isn't suitable for everybody, is the pick up put down method. So for some people, still that's two hands off, but I pick up as soon as they start crying. Do not put them back down till they stop crying. Then you put them down, pick up, put down, because a baby crying in your arms is better than a baby crying in their crib on their own. However, like I said, some people that doesn't work out still. Some people would rather do much gentler approach, and some people don't want to sleep train at all. And it's about finding what's right for you as a parent. And this is what I said earlier, is about not judging or shaming others, because what I wanted to get my second down from about 6 months, because I wanted to be able to be downstairs with my eldest. We were in the middle of COVID, and I wanted to have half an hour, me and her. And that's not suitable or right for everybody. So it's about finding what's right for you. But what I will say to parents is, you can sleep train, you can do everything you're supposed to do by the book, and your baby can still wake through the night. They can still need you through the night, because they need you for so many different reasons. We don't sleep through the night, and then we get back into bed with our partners and snuggled up, for extra comfort. They wake for comfort, they wake for hunger, which is still very normal to feed through the night until they're a year plus. Development impacts their waking, teething if they're not feeling 100%, if they've woken up cold. So much impacts sleep, and you can't eradicate that with sleep training, unless you're literally willing just to leave them to cry in the night, which I would never advocate for.
No, we have this situation at the moment where Rocker likes to have a poo.
That is hard.
He has a poo between, I would say, midnight and like 5 most days.
Yeah.
And that's normally when he cries. And most of the time he just kind of shouts, but he cries, and I'm like, the poo has come. So
Yeah.
that is that. And I remember going through exactly the same phase with my other kids. They go through this phase where they start pooing in the middle of the night, and I'm like, why? How does this happen? When does this end? I can't really remember. But yeah, sleep is wild. Sleep is absolutely wild. Now, I want to talk about tongue ties, because I feel like this is another really hot topic at the moment. And I know that that's not something that necessarily falls under your remit as a health professional, but as a mum, talk to me about your opinion on tongue ties. I mean, some people say that it's being overdiagnosed. Others say, it's missed entirely. Like, how can we as parents navigate this inconsistent advice?
It's really tricky, because especially here in England, I would say there's a huge gap in the system. So if you're not seen immediately with a tongue tie, but the only real reason, one of the biggest reasons they'll cut a tongue tie is if they're struggling to gain weight or it's impacting feeding. So we're seeing there's lots of babies who still have a tongue tie, then it doesn't get cut. Like you said, should it be cut? There's a lot of new emerging evidence as to, does it actually impact that much? I think it's a very underfunded area within England in particular, because one of the theories as to why we're seeing an influx of tongue ties is because of low folate levels in pregnancy. Yeah, so it can cause, this is one of the theories, is what can be causing more tongue ties. As a mother, I've kind of gone down my own journey of learning about mouth breathing and tongue ties due to my own experience with my youngest. And there's just, I don't really know where you can turn in England. So basically, when you close your mouth, you take a nice deep breath through your nose. Your tongue should be placed to the roof of your mouth. So our nose is like a filtration system. So we should be breathing through our nose over our mouth as much as possible, particularly at night. And for some babies and children, if their tongue tie is so bad they can't have the tongue on the roof of the mouth, you can see how it can be impacting their face shape. It can be impacting how they're breathing, which can then impact nighttime sleep, which can, there's a huge knock-on effect from it all. But to tell you the truth, I don't know where parents should turn with it, unless you can go private, because that is the only other service really within the UK, is finding a tongue tie practitioner privately. It's, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure, because there's so much conflicting evidence on Are we overdiagnosing? Should we be cutting them? Should we not be cutting them? Because as health visitors, we're not actually trained to spot tongue ties or to deal with tongue ties. We kind of, your mentor shows you what tongue tie looks like, and then you were meant to go on with it. So then if you don't have much more experience with that, there wasn't, when I did it 10 years ago, any specific training on tongue ties for health visitors.
Interesting. And you mentioned there that your own personal journey with your daughter with mouth breathing and a tongue tie. Now, my daughter is a mouth breather. She sleeps and she only breathes through her mouth. And she is she gets every cold, cough under the sun. I think she coughs all the time. She had RSV when she was 5 weeks old, and she's coughed probably ever since. Can you I am so unclued up on mouth breathing. How is this? I mean, you mentioned obviously the link with mouth breathing and a tongue tie, but why is mouth breathing not great for our children?
Because we're meant to be breathing through our nose to help filter. Like you said, it can then go on to cause additional illnesses, ear infections. So my daughter, she sucks her thumb to plug that gap. She's done it ever since she was a baby. And there is another theory now about high crying babies. So we don't really know why we can have high crying babies. Some of them can scream for hours and hours and hours. Their needs are being met. We're holding them, we're feeding them. They just cry. We don't know why. Lots of theories, and that's what's called colic. Colic is just a well baby that cries. One of the theories are coming out is that actually some babies, they struggle with that stop-start breathing pattern, and crying forces them to breathe more. And interestingly, my youngest was a very high crier, 6-7 hours a day. She's a mouth breather. She now sucks her thumb, and that thumb sucking can plug that gap. It's on the roof of the mouth where the tongue should be. But what then has happened is obviously her teething is now crowded. She's got a very high palate in her mouth, and it's just, all of these things have these knock-on effects, but where do you go? That's the trouble. So actually, speaking on my Instagram stories about it, a dentist did get in touch and said you need to go down the myofunctional route, and typically that is usually going down the private route. And I think what you're meant to do is oral exercises, which obviously comes from a different professional, to help retrain the way that they can close their mouth and retrain the way that they breathe, and it would involve her stopping thumb sucking, which I can't bother with that.
But I was about to say also, I don't know how you do that. Like, it's not like a dummy where you can be like, oh, the dummies are gone. You can't get rid of the thumb. Like, that is just...
It is easier once they're school age and you can negotiate with them. It's not really something I suggest to parents younger than school age dealing with, because like you said, it's too difficult.
Hard. Really hard. I want to talk about milestones now, and milestone anxiety. I mean, again, like third time round, I've actually forgotten when babies should be doing what they're doing. But as a health professional and a health visitor, what kind of things are you looking for? Like, what is key at each stage during that first year?
So we use something called the ASQ, which stands for Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And anyone can Google ASQ 6 months, ASQ 48 months, and it will show you a very rough guideline as to what questions we would be asking about fine motor skills, gross motor skills, personal, social, problem solving, etc., etc. But it's still a piece of the puzzle. Okay, it's still not something to take in absolute black and white, because every baby develops so differently. They really do. Like, you must see that with your 3. They do things at such different ages and stages. So yes, there are rough guidelines, but I never like to actually lay them out, because I have people who they're 4 months old are rolling to and from their back and front, and then I've got people at 8 and 9 months saying they're still not doing that. Should I be worried? And it's like, well, no, there's a huge umbrella term here of everything. It's just so individual to the baby. And I could be saying that yes, your baby should be sitting up at this particular age, but that's not looking at the whole puzzle piece. So I'll give you an example. I'll have parents around 14 months saying my little one's not walking yet. Okay, that ordinarily doesn't concern me. What I want to know is, can they pull to stand? Can they weight bear? If you hold their hands, are they able to stand there? Are they crawling yet? Are they able to get from A to B? Can they sit themselves up? And no or yes to all of those questions will then impact and change my response to, yes, I'm concerned they're not walking yet, because ordinarily they do things at their own ages and stages. So it's a really tricky one to answer, what should they be doing when, because actually it's too tiny a part of the puzzle, like for the, too tiny a part of the piece for the whole puzzle.
And you're so right about kids doing things in their own time, like all of mine have been very, very different. And then,
Yeah.
and this one, he was rolling from his front to his back. And then he learned how to roll from his back to his front. And now he's forgotten how to roll from his front to his back. And for a month now, he gets on his tummy and he's like, fuck, how do I get back? I can't get back. I can't get back. And then he's like, go get me. Which I'm like, come on, hon. We've been here. We've done this. No, it's literally like computer says no. And you know, when should we be really concerned? At what point should we be like, gosh, we're making no real progress here at all? Like, I need to see someone.
I would say go with your gut instinct. As soon as you as a parent are concerned, you know your child better than anybody. If you looked at that ASQ that I mentioned earlier and you're starting to see they're scoring 0 on absolutely everything or in one particular area, and you have gut instinct concerns, listen to them. There's no harm in getting in touch with a health professional and getting stuff checked out. Because actually, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's either fine or let's review. Should I come back and see you in 6 weeks' time? And we give, because sometimes we just need to watch and wait. Sometimes we just need to give babies, toddlers, and children a chance and some time. And suddenly, like you're saying, he's not rolling again now. I actually went to a mum not that long ago whose little one was rolling, to back to front, had stopped for months. I got there and said, you're not going to believe it. He's done it this morning. And it's just sometimes just giving them that time of watching and waiting. Obviously, there are times in which we do need to intervene and we do need to offer additional support and we need to look at the bigger picture of what's going on. But with children, we do have time on our side because they do develop at such different ages and stages and speeds, and some of them are crawling, some of them skip crawling completely and walking. It's just, they're all so different.
Yeah, it's so true. We're going to do a quick fire. We're going to do a rapid fire round today, which I've never done before. But before I get onto that, I wanted to talk about social media and the misinformation that is out there in the world at the moment, because there is so much. In fact, I was listening to something the other day that came up on my algorithm, which was saying that water was bad. And I was like, oh, hun, I feel like you've lost your marbles. Story for another time. There are a lot of parenting influencers out there who have zero medical background. How can we as mums spot real advice and reliable advice versus people who are just making shit up willy-nilly?
Yeah, it's really, really tricky because, you know, I see it myself online. If you have a following, people take what you say because we trust other people are following. So what this person must be saying is true. Otherwise, why would they have tens of thousands of followers if they're lying? And what I really struggle with, and this is something I actually struggle with sleep consultants, is I have a governing body. So I'm a qualified nurse. If I say something that is wrong, I could be reported to the Nursing Midwifery Council and I could get my nursing registration stripped off of me. So I have to abide by certain guidelines and boundaries and rules to ensure I'm giving safe advice. And this is what's really hard with parenting, people who just have a platform and are parents. I'm not saying their opinion's not valid, but there should definitely be disclaimers on there to state I am not a professional. And with sleep consultants, you know, they go on these courses where they've paid a few £100 and then they're dishing out this advice about sleep, which who's governing them? I don't know. Who if you're giving out unsafe advice, who is there to say to you, no, this is wrong, you can't be giving that? So I think the advice I'd give to parents is take everything you hear with a pinch of salt. Go with your gut instinct. It's, you know, your gut instinct trumps so much, and do your own research. And I'm not talking about just influencers online. Read the articles, you know, Google what's interesting to you, because we all do follow different paths. Some people are for sleep training, some people are against it, and that's okay. It's about finding what resonates with you and then making sure it's backed with the correct science, that you're not just listening to, oh, well, blah, blah said to use a sleep pod, you know, because they use it at night time, it must be safe. Well, we know they're really unsafe to use unsupervised, and I wouldn't be recommending those. So it's, you know, we've seen a mass influx of people using baby slings and baby carriers, you know, the particularly expensive ones. They're coming out as dupes on TikTok Shop and really cheap, and they're really unsafe. And it's just, but if someone with 200,000 followers is promoting it and using it with their baby, why wouldn't you believe it? Why wouldn't you think, well, they're using it and it's safe, and they, you know, all these other people are listening and trusting? And it's just, it's trying to be a bit savvy and listening to your gut. If it doesn't feel right for a reason, then it's not right for that reason.
Yeah, I totally agree. And also, I mean, I'm sure you've seen, there was a it actually came up today on the BBC about a 9-month-old that was swaddled in a nursery and strapped in and suffocated because they were left for 90 minutes by themselves. And I mean, literally, like the heartbreak. I mean, again, like
I know.
it's terrifying.
awful.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
terrifying. You know, you trust someone with your kids, and you know, where are they getting this information from?
I know.
Misinformation is you know, there's lots of great things that have happened
Yeah.
with social media for sure, because it's brought to life people like you who are sharing great
Oh,
nuggets
thank
of
you.
information. But there is
Yeah.
so much misinformation out there, and I really do think, especially for a first-time mum, where you're sleep deprived and you just need some help and you don't have your village around you.
Yeah, you are the most vulnerable market out there because you are willing to spend a lot of money on having a settled baby, a happy baby, taking away problems, helping them sleep better. Why wouldn't you spend all the money? So you're a marketing dream to, you know, spend all your money on trying these different things to have a settled baby. Because why wouldn't you? Why, you know, why wouldn't you? But a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, this is what parenting is. It's bloody hard. It's intense. It's, you know, it's really hard. And there's no quick fix a lot of the time. If something says this will help your baby sleep through the night, probably not true. Does that mean a parent wouldn't try it? Well, yeah, I'm sure they would if it gives them a shot. Why wouldn't they? But it doesn't necessarily mean it's safe or the right thing to do.
No, honestly, best and worst job in the whole world. I stand by
Yeah,
that.
literally. Yeah.
Right, rapid fire, let's do it. Dummies or no dummies?
Am I only allowed to say yes or no?
You can pick a dummy or a no dummy. You
Is
can
that it?
you can back up your reason as to
Okay.
why.
I would say no dummy. One had a dummy, one didn't, but it's a faff to get rid of. It starts impacting nighttime sleep. It falls out. They need it putting back in. It can be a real nuisance. So probably if I could choose, I'd say no dummy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. My third was the only one who ever took a dummy, and it fell out all the time at night. It just turned into a dummy runner. I was like, well, we're not doing this. We're not.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Tummy time. Is it a miracle or a myth?
I would say miracle. Tummy time isn't just laying flat. Tummy time is here on your chest. Tummy time is anywhere the head isn't being supported. So if they're here looking up at you, perfect tummy time. So yeah, I would say it's a miracle. It's amazing.
Love it. Most underrated piece of parenting advice.
For me, I would always say you are always going to be judged for every single decision, whether you're judged positively or negatively. So you may as well be judged for doing what's the right thing for you.
And what's the most overrated piece of parenting advice you've ever received?
Sleep when the baby sleeps.
So fucking true. So
Or leave the mess. You know, it's just like, I can't.
no.
Do you want me to just get even more overwhelmed and triggered?
Exactly. Honestly,
Yeah.
my husband is a messy human, and I'm like, you don't understand. If my house isn't clean, I am not happy. Like, I can't do anything else. It just, I don't know whether that's a woman thing, but it winds me up. I wish I would be more chilled, but I'm just not.
Yeah,
I'm not made that way.
No.
What's the one baby product you would never recommend?
Cot bumpers, they should be illegal. I don't know how they're allowed. There's
No,
quite a few I wouldn't recommend, to be honest.
give us some more. I like all this.
Okay. Cot bumpers, I don't really recommend the perfect prep machine. Don't recommend pods where the babies sleep unsupervised in them. Don't recommend. I actually don't like car seats that turn into prams. I think the car seat should stay in the car. Again, it's another piece of marketing where parents are lured into a false sense of security. Because it's allowed to be sold, it should be fine. I don't agree with things being attached to babies and then falling asleep. Comforters, we see a lot of sleep consultants recommending comforters, and that's a clear crib. It needs to be a clear crib. That's not a clear crib anymore. Obviously, do what's right for you as a family, but it's, you know, we need clear cribs for babies.
So we're diverting off the quick fire very quickly for this question for you, because I have a child who is obsessed with smothering himself to go to sleep. He has to have something like
Is that your youngest?
Yeah, and honestly, it drives me mad. He's here now. Here we go. With his jelly cat bunny, and probably 5 times throughout this conversation, the jelly cat bunny has been on there. I mean, we have a nanit, so I can see him breathing. I can watch the breathing because I am the most anxious sleeping parent ever. But what can we give them if they like that? Because my other kids didn't give a shit. But he is obsessed with having something by his face. He loved to be swaddled. He loves anything that's like the comfort. He just has to have it. It's weird.
And that's the thing. There are guidelines out there, okay? There are the perfect guidelines out there, but it doesn't always work with every single baby. So it's about doing what's right for you as a family. I'll be honest, my youngest, she did have a small comforter, but I would never recommend that to a family. It's about doing what's right for you. And like I said before, I remember sending it to my mum and my mother-in-law, who are both really, really supportive. And one of them said, if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right for a reason. If it feels okay to you, then, you know, you've got to sometimes make these decisions. And with all of parenting, there are pros and cons to every decision you make. So it's about just making which one's the right ones for you. You know, and it's, you just have to do what's right for you sometimes.
Yeah, this is true. And I mean, if we were to have a comforter, is there any recommendation on what is the least suffocating option? I mean, does a Jellycat bunny cut the mustard?
The thing is, the older they get, the less high risk there is. Okay, I use the Lizelle cloths, so they're literally like this
Yes,
big, and
yeah.
and that's what she still sleeps with it now. She plays with the label and rubs it up on her nose. So you've got to make your own risk assessments, but I can't as a health professional recommend something. So if somebody went on to do something and God forbid something happened, then, you know, Ruth the health visitor said it was fine. You know, it's
Ruth the health visitor said, get the Jellycat bunny, get the Jellycat bunny. I mean, he's bright yellow. He's very cute, the bunny. But yeah, I mean, I kind of have decided that because the Jellycat bunny is like a weird shape, it doesn't lie flat on his face, like it tilts off. And obviously now he's kind of at an age where he can move things and move. So, and he's not swaddled. So I watch him like a hawk, but yeah. Oh, you wouldn't sleep without it. He sees it.
No.
He sees the Jellycat bunny coming down and he goes, wee! He gets so excited. He's like, sleep time. I'm like, this is hilarious. Okay, and then final thing, what's your best baby product? Like, as a mum, not as a health visitor, you as a mum, what saved you? What saved your bacon a few times?
A baby carrier. For me, obviously, this was 7 years ago when I got mine. It was the Ergo 360. Oh my God, I loved it. There's so many more out there now. They were in a carrier 24/7. So for me, it's a baby carrier or a sling, whichever you prefer. But having your baby on you, best place for you, best place for them. And that for me is the best baby product out there.
I agree.
And you're the best baby product out there. Honestly, you are. I have people message me all the time. What should I do with my 2-month-old, 3-month-old? I'm like, this, holding them here. There's nothing more you need to do other than having them on you with you doing, you know, it's just so you and a baby carrier, that's it for me.
Yeah. And I stand by Ergo Baby. I've had the Ergo Baby with all 3 kids and they are so good. The problem that I get is all my babies are like these beastie chunky monkeys.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where I'm like, oh my God, this is like a full blown workout, like all day.
Yeah.
I think he's now 9 kilos. He's
Wow.
5 months, 9 kilos. I mean, like that is a gym session itself.
Yeah, when you're strapped on to you, yeah, definitely. My 7-year-old can still fit in the Ergo, and it's gone for her from being newborn to now. I don't use it now because she's too heavy, but sometimes they'll see it and they're like, "Oh, can you put us in it?" And it's just honestly, I don't know what the new babies carriers are like, but for me, that is the OG. Just
agreed.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
Agreed. Totally with you there. Before we get on to tips and products, can you give us a couple of myths you'd like to bust? Because I feel like you do this very well on your social channels. So give me some myths and then bust them, please.
Okay. Babies, you shouldn't be co-sleeping. That's a myth I'd like to bust. Yes, there are instances in which it's unsafe to bed share. However, a lot of babies who come home from hospital will not be put down in their crib. Yeah. So in England, health visitors and midwives it's part of the NICE guidelines, the National Institute of Clinical Excellence. We should be educating parents on firstly how to bed share safely when it is unsafe and we shouldn't be bed sharing because there are instances in which it is unsafe. How to do it safely and just supporting parents with doing it. It's just we're finding 9 out of 10 parents, the Lullaby Trust conducted a survey, 9 out of 10 parents do it at some point on their parenting journey, and a huge portion of their parents aren't told how, didn't prepare to do it, you know, they just did it by accident in an unsafe way. So for me, bed sharing is a big positive if it's safe for you to do so.
Okay, and how do you do it? How do we do it safely? Because I've never bed shared because I'm so terrified of squishing them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're educated on how to do it and empower parents that you can do it in this particular way. So the Lullaby Trust is an incredible resource. They show you visual aids on how to bed share safely. Okay. But you mustn't bring a baby into bed with you if you smoke, if you have anything sedating, even a glass of wine, prescribed medication. If baby was below a certain birth weight, which I believe is 2.5 kilos, but I'd need to double check that, or premature. They mustn't sleep between you and your partner, no other pets or children in bed with you. And it has to be a firm, flat, waterproof mattress without the risk of them falling out. So hair tied back. So and they must always be on their back and never swaddled. And preferably, it is safer if you are breastfeeding, because your body, you don't even need to be awake for your body to know that it needs to respond to your baby. If you smoked in pregnancy, it increases the risk of sudden infant death syndrome as well. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's terrifying. That is
yeah.
terrifying. Okay. Any more myths you want to debunk?
About spoiling a newborn baby. You cannot spoil a baby. Holding a baby too much, you're not going to create any bad habits. They are designed to be on you as much as possible for as long as possible. I saw an incredible quote the other day. It said 9 months in your tummy, 9 months on your tummy, which I appreciate is older than newborn, and then 9 months beside you. So actually, I think it's just about removing that frustrating message of spoiling a newborn baby or hindering their sleep in the future. Their sleep changes around 4 months. They stop going from newborn sleep and their sleep is much more similar to ours. Whatever you do in those first few months isn't going to impact how they sleep at 10 years old. It's about just holding and responding to them. If you can hold them for the first 3 to 4 months, ideal scenario for me, as long as you do it safely.
I love this. And then one tip and one product before we say goodbye.
Okay, if you're breastfeeding, I like the hacker pumps, so the silicone pumps that can help collect some of the, when you're feeding on one side, it just goes straight into a pad. You may, or however you're collecting that milk, it just can help draw a little bit of additional milk out for you. And what was the other thing? So one tip and one
product. So you've done your product tip. One tip. Oh no, the tip is your hacker pump. Love that. And then your product.
Oh no, that is my product, I suppose. That and a sling. My tip is ignore societal pressure. Go with your gut instinct. I cannot say that enough. If something feels right to you, it feels right for a reason. Your gut instinct trumps everyone and anything. So if you have a concern about your baby, be their advocate, listen to your gut, and ignore societal pressures of what people are telling you what to do.
Love this. And then Ruth, for anyone who wants to come find you, ask you questions, give you a follow, which by the way, I massively recommend you do, where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok. My username is a health visitor, and then I'm also on YouTube. So I'm uploading longer videos on there, of specific topics, and so that's a health visitor as well. And then I have a stand store where I sell some guides. They're only £5. I'll always keep them cheap and affordable. I've got a free toilet training guide on there around fussy eating, difficult behaviours, weaning, older toddler and baby sleep guide, and a younger baby sleep guide.
Love this. I'm going to link everything in the show notes. Ruth, honestly, you've been phenomenal. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been so nice catching up. Happy Monday and all that jazz.
Yeah, you too.
And hopefully we'll be seeing you again soon.
Yeah, take care. Thank you so much.
Right.